if you have questions for either of us about Belize, Costa Rica, anything, you can have teachers, if you want to type the questions into the chat, then we'll be read them aloud and we'll answer them.
Yeah, and it can be related to the presentation or just completely unrelated. Any questions that you might have, we're more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, if you want to ask questions about studying abroad and how that all happened too, we can answer questions about that.
Oh, how are the two countries similar? I think that's a really good question.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so this is an answer to one of our last questions. The answer for, if we go back, or we already changed the slide, but this is a really good answer, that the two countries, Costa Rica and Belize, are similar because they both have people coming and going from a country. And then the main difference is that Costa Rica is very opening and welcoming, and the US is less opening or less open and less welcoming, which I tend to agree with. All right, so if you have any other questions for either of us about Belize, Costa Rica, studying abroad, have your teacher type them into the chat. Okay. So while you guys are answering or asking us some questions, we're going to talk about why we decided to study abroad and like why I chose to go to Costa Rica and why Harper chose to go to Belize. So I actually went to Meredith College for 2 years in Raleigh, and I was in the Spanish department taking a lot of Spanish classes for my minor. And one of my professors used to live in Costa Rica, and she leads a trip to Costa Rica every other summer. And so she encouraged me to go. I wasn't completely sure if studying abroad was even an option for me because I knew my family couldn't really like have the financial means to help me do that. But I was luckily able to find a scholarship that actually paid for everything almost, which was incredible and such a blessing. And it made it possible for me to go to Costa Rica. And so I think that was really great because I was able to have a free trip to be able to go study, but also I was able to connect with my professor, and she was able to show us around the towns that she spent a lot of time in teaching, and we were able to meet the family that actually was her host family when she had studied abroad and lived in Costa Rica right after she graduated from college. And so that was really cool. The family was super welcoming, and they showed us their farm, which was I actually have a video about it for Carolina Navigators, but it was out in the rainforest, and it was really interesting. And they also like made us dinner, and they like put on a little show for us and like sang songs, and that was really fun. And so yeah.
Yeah. So I actually went to Belize during it. I took a gap year between high school and college. And so I decided to go to Belize. And I was particularly drawn to Belize because it was such a diverse and fascinating place. I love the food and the culture that they had there. And I was really excited to kind of get to experience that firsthand. And I was also really excited. The program that I went through had the opportunity to live with host families during the entire time that we were there. And that for me was such an amazing opportunity because I got to really experience daily life and see what that was like, whether that was doing laundry by hand or going to the market and picking up produce, or even one day I got to help my neighbors sell their pineapples in the market and getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning and going to the market with them, which was just a really great experience and an opportunity to get to know more about a country that a lot of us don't really know too much about because it's such a small country, but there's so much to learn from there, and it's such an incredible place.
Okay, so we have a question. So what is $1 worth in Costa Rican currency? So it's definitely changed a little bit since when I was there, but I just Googled it right now to check what's current. And it's a little complicated to explain if you're not actually in Costa Rica and like see all the different bills. But probably the easiest way to describe it is it's a little $1 is a little bit equal to a little bit more than 500 colones. And so that like for me, when I would go to the store and I was trying to pay, like sometimes it would be better to pay in US money than in Costa Rican money, and it was just kind of confusing. But let's see. Yeah, I actually was awful with trying to figure out the conversion rate when I was in Costa Rica, and I would always have my friends to like help me with the money sort of part of it because I was getting confused. But what we pretty much said was like it's like close to half as much in Costa Rica as like $1 would be in the US, but a little bit different. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a more straightforward answer.
Yeah, it's always funny in countries where the currency number is so high because it looks like you have a lot of money if you have like $600 or something. So that's always interesting.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting for other questions, in Belize, it's actually an exact 2-to-1 ratio. So for $1 American, I believe. I'm trying to remember. I think it's $1 American equals 2 Belizean dollars. Let me double check. It might be the other way around.
Yeah, so clearly currency is not our strong suit. But one of you guys has suggested that we can check the change of currency daily on the news or newspapers, which is true. Yeah, so like when I typed it into Google for Costa Rica, it says 601.48 Costa Rican colon equals $1, $1 US.
Yeah, so it's $1 American equals 2 Belizean dollars. So yes, which is very handy because it's very easy to for conversions. So works out quite nicely.
And then we also just put in a link about what's a good site for conversions. Yes. There you go. If we can't do the math, you guys can also look. So while you guys are sending in more questions, we're going to talk about some of our favorite foods and things we ate there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one food that I really loved is tortillas. In Belize, they have a lot of influences from Mexico, and they have kind of 2 main types of tortillas. They have corn tortillas, maize tortillas, or flour tortillas, harina tortillas. And so during my time there, I got the opportunity to learn how to make both of them, which is really a fun process to actually go. We went like near our house. We had a place that would actually grind up the corn to make corn tortillas, which was really cool to watch. But in comparison to like flour tortillas that might be made in Mexico, Belizean tortillas are a little bit thicker. And you actually have like a piece of like foil that you'll put out, and you'll literally use your hands to kind of press out the dough. And so it's amazing to see, like, my host mom was just so good at doing it, and she could do it really fast, and we're there trying to like get it even. So that was really fun to learn how to do, and they also taste amazing. Like, I miss them so much.
Yeah, so for me, actually, I think the favorite thing I had in Costa Rica was not actually a food, but it was a drink. And so when I had first gotten to Costa Rica, I was like super dehydrated from flying and like not drinking enough water. And when I got to my host family's house, there's a big pitcher of some sort of like fruity drink, and I legit like drank the whole pitcher. And it ended up being my favorite drink when I was in Costa Rica, and it's called Cas, and you can only get it in Costa Rica, which breaks my heart because I love this drink, and like I want to go back to Costa Rica honestly just to have Cas. But it's kind of like sour guava, and it's like, I think you can have Cas with like milk in it, but I always just got regular Cas, and it was really good. Yeah. So that was my favorite thing. I'd order at restaurants, and my host mom would make it and be like, okay, you can't drink the whole pitcher this time. You can have like 1 or 2 glasses. But so it was great.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, there's so many juices in Belize. I don't know, it's just a really big thing there. And so we have a tamarind tree in our backyard. So sometimes they'd go and they'd collect all the seeds off the ground, and they'd make this juice and out of it, and it was so good. And they also my host mom loved to make like all types of juices. So sometimes she made like banana juice, which was really good, watermelon juice. And so like since I've come back, I'm like, I'm so sad that I don't have that anymore, because it would really be made with like every single meal. It was such a huge part of like daily life. And if you go to like someone else's house, they'd often like give you a cup of juice or something. It was a really big part of like hospitality as well.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like the fresh fruit, at least in Costa Rica, and I'm sure in Belize too, like doesn't necessarily compare to the fruit here in the U.S. Like you could just pull things off the tree and eat it, and I really, really enjoyed all the sort of different fruits there, and honestly miss how like juicy a lot of them were, and how much better they tasted. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, we also have a question. What is the diversity of animals in the 2 countries?
Do you want me to go first?
Whichever.
Okay. So Costa Rica has a really diverse animal life, and it was really cool for me to be able to see so many different animals when I was in Costa Rica. One week I went to the beach, and we were walking down like to actually go to the beach from our hotel. And I look up and I see in the trees that there's all these monkeys crossing the street, but above us, and they'd put ropes over the street so that the monkeys wouldn't like run in the road and get hit. And so I thought that was really crazy of like seeing monkeys like above me and running back and forth. And we also had to be careful when we were at the beach because they would take your bags and like steal your money and stuff like that. And it was crazy because you'd think you'd have to like keep your stuff away from people, but you had to keep your stuff away from monkeys. So that was fun. And also another hotel I stayed at, when we woke up one morning and we walked outside to go get breakfast, we saw a like lizard iguana sort of thing that was massive, and he's just sitting on the steps outside our room, just all chill and all that sort of stuff. And so I think that was pretty, like, I don't know, that was pretty amazing to see. Yeah, there's lots of different butterflies I got to see. Yeah, it's very diverse in animal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we don't have as many monkeys in Belize, but I did see a few when I went to go visit the Maya ruins. There are some monkeys there, but not nearly as many. One of the things that I was super excited to see were toucans. My host mom kept on telling me that there was a toucan that lived nearby. I never saw the one at our house, by our house, but one day I was by the river and just looked up and it was there. And that was such an incredible experience because they're super colorful, and it's definitely not a bird that I don't think we have here anywhere in the US. So that was a really cool experience. And then there are also just iguanas everywhere you look. They'll be crossing the road. Especially they really like to hang out around rivers. So you'll find them, like if you go by a river, any direction that you look, you'll just see tons of iguanas, and I've just never seen that many in one place. So that's really, really cool. And it's also it's extremely diverse, especially like in their forests or jungles, I guess. They have all sorts of different types of reptiles and snakes, so it's really, really cool to see. And they also have some zoos there where you can see them firsthand as well.
Mm-hmm. Also, I forgot to say, honestly, probably my favorite thing to see when I was in Costa Rica, I got to see a sloth, which was great. I was afraid, my whole group was afraid we wouldn't be able to see any sloths because there's not that many. And I think a lot of tourism companies that don't have the best motivations will sometimes hurt them or bring them out of the wilderness, and so then they die sooner and things like that. And so we were afraid we wouldn't see a sloth, but we actually ended up seeing one. He was sleeping, of course, but, up in a tree, and I was really excited. I would wanted to see a sloth, so that was great.
Mm-hmm. It's very cool.
Yeah,
there are no sloths in Belize, at least as far as I know. There might be, but
yeah. And so also something else about Costa Rica, it's one of the most biodiverse countries in the world, and you can find nearly 5% of all known plants and animals in the national parks and like the wildlife refuges that we have in Costa Rica. And so some of the like national parks, they have birds that you can't really find like throughout like the rest of the world. Like it's very like you have to come here to see them.
Mm-hmm.
Come to Costa Rica.
Yeah, we also in Belize, they have jaguars, which are really cool. I never got a chance to see them. They're kind of elusive. They tend to hide, so it's kind of hard to see. And they also have the tapir. I can't remember how it's pronounced, but it's their national. I believe it's their national animal, and it's a very interesting looking animal. I've never seen anything quite like it. So if you get a chance, definitely look it up. It's really cool to see. Very different than anything that we have here in the U.S.
So if you guys have any questions, make sure you're typing them into the chat and we can answer them. But while we're waiting for some more questions, we're going to talk about sports. Does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. So in Belize, of course, soccer or football, as it's known most in the rest of the world, is very, very, very popular. In the town that I was in, San Ignacio, they actually had a big park kind of near the center of town, and it was very popular. Most like Friday and Saturday nights, locals would go out and have soccer matches. So it was always like a really exciting time, like whether or not you were like super interested in watching, everyone would kind of go, and it was this really cool communal space where everyone would kind of connect. And they also had basketball courts there too, so that was also pretty popular as well.
Yeah, so in Costa Rica, they're like soccer really dominates everything. Whenever the games would be on, my whole host family, like the extended family would come and hang out. And if I was trying to do homework, I had zero chance of getting anything done, because every time a goal was scored or anytime a bad call was made, like the whole house was like screaming. And so it's a very big part of Costa Rican life. You could, a lot of, like on game day, just walking down the street, even like in the small town I lived in, people were wearing their Costa Rican soccer jerseys. And so I thought that was really interesting, because like for Duke, UNC sort of stuff, you'll see like people wearing the shirts on like the game day sort of stuff. But it was just interesting to see like this is a national team that everyone is just so dedicated to, and like would legit like schedule their meals around it sometimes, and
Yeah.
sort of stuff like that.
Yeah, I was there in Belize during the World Cup, so it was a very wherever you'd go on the TV, there would always be the World Cup, and it was funny because Belize didn't have their team actually in the World Cup, but people were still like super invested in it. Like a lot of people were cheering for the German team, which kind of surprised me, but it was really interesting to get to see that and experience that and cheer for teams that I didn't know. So yeah, it was really really fun.
Yeah, and like even though this isn't technically a sport, I think my at least what I said earlier, like my host family really enjoyed like throwing parties, and so dancing was a big sort of thing. And so when I first got to Costa Rica, my professor tried to get us all to learn different like, Costa Rican dances, and I'm not a good dancer, so it didn't go well. But whenever my host family would throw a party, we'd have like karaoke stuff for a while. But then after we'd all eat dinner and stuff like that, we'd all get up and start dancing. And like I always had someone have to teach me how to dance every time, even though it was the same thing week after week. But yeah, that was really fun too. And at least my host family really enjoyed it. But I had other friends who said their families also did similar sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dance is definitely a big part of culture in Belize as well. I actually, when I was there, I joined a kind of like dance class, which was really interesting. I was very unprepared. I went with another friend that was a dancer for like many years of her life, so I was really struggling. But it was an incredible experience because there's a lot. I feel like in the dance, you could really see a lot of different influences from Africa, from Mexico. So it's really cool to see this kind of melting pot of cultures come together and kind of manifest in the dances that they had there. So it was a really, really cool opportunity.
All right, well, we're just about at the end of our time. So thank you everyone for tuning in and for your great questions and participation. We will be back in about 5 minutes with our last presentation of the day, which is on food and language in Japan and Spain. So yeah, you can stay logged in if you're going to attend the next presentation as well. And hopefully we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Bye.
Thank you so much.